In lesson 3-3, we'll be solving multiplication equations. The division property of equality states that if we have 8, we know that it equals 8. Well, if we take both sides of the equal sign and divide both sides by the same number, 2, we can also say that 4 equals 4. So when we apply that rule, that principle in algebra, we see that if we have 2x, so 2 times the variable x equals -6, we know that from our rule before, if we divide both sides by 2, then the equation still remains equal. Again, we want to refer back to our teeter-totter from yesterday, and we want to keep everything balanced and equal. Okay, so right here in the middle of the teeter-totter is the equal sign, and we have our equation, maybe 2x equals -6 on top of the teeter-totter, and we want to keep that teeter-totter level throughout our entire problem. Okay, and so another vocabulary word that we want to refer to is a coefficient. So in this problem, 2 is the coefficient of x, and coefficient means the number that's being multiplied to the variable. And you're always going to divide by the coefficient. So when we look at the first example here, they're going to want to make sure that we focus on only the side with the variable. So right now, we're not worried about the number 39. We're only looking over here at the 3 times y. Okay, and so we need to ask ourselves, what's the opposite of multiplication? So right now, we're multiplying 3 times y, and to undo something, we have to do the opposite. So for starters, in your homework, you're going to write the problem 39 equals 3y. Again, have your focus on the side with the variable, and to undo multiplication, we will divide. So we're going to divide by 3, and whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. So we'll divide that side by 3 as well. Okay, 3 is the coefficient of y, so we're dividing by the coefficient. Now, what happens with 3 divided by 3? Well, 3 divided by 3 equals 1. And 1 times y equals y. So we can really just cross these two out and we get y. And that's what we wanted in the first place, is to get the variable by itself. So 39 divided by 3. Well, 30 divided by 3 is 10, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So 13 is our answer. Now, of course, you can use your calculator to check this, but we're going to take 13 and plug it back into the original equation. 3 times 13 is 39, so it works. 6m equals 42. So again, in your homework, you're going to want to copy the equation into your assignment paper. 6m equals 42. Okay, and then I'm going to use the screen shade here to get us to focus on the correct side. We don't want to look at 42 right now. What we do want to focus on is the side with the variable. So we want to look at 6m. 6 is multiplying m, and so we need to do the opposite of that, which is division. So 6m divided by 6. So 6 is the coefficient. We are dividing by the coefficient. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 42 divided by 6. And we know that 6 divided by 6 is 1. And so m equals 7. 42 divided by 6 is 7. Now we can take this number and plug it back into our original equation. 6 times 7 equals 42. That is true. And I realize that this is a basic fact right now, and you can probably guess that 7 is the answer. But we want to get in the habit of working out and practicing these steps of showing the work. You will be expected to show the work on all of your assignment problems. All right, so now we have -4 times z equals 60. Notice I drew a line in the middle of my z just so we don't confuse it with a 2. Again, focus on the side with the variable. I'm not looking at the 60. I want to look at the negative 4z. Okay, and this is a little bit of review with our integers. And we know that when we divide by the coefficient is actually negative 4. We don't want to just divide by 4, but we also want to divide by negative 4. And we know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, which is exactly what we want. We don't want to solve for a negative z. We want to solve for a positive z. So again, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Again, the coefficient is negative 4. So negatives cancel, so we're left with a positive, and the 4's cancel, so we just have a positive variable z. And now we have a positive divided by a negative. Okay, so that's only one negative value, so we know that our answer is going to be negative. And 60 divided by 4. When I think of 60, I think of 60 minutes in an hour. I think of the face of a clock. And if I divide it into 4 groups, we have our 15-minute groups, like from the 12 to the 3 on the clock. So z equals negative 15. And again, with your calculator, you can check that. You can type in negative 4 times negative 15, and you get a positive 60. Or you can already understand that we have 2 negatives, so we know it's going to be positive, and just type into your calculator 4 times 15. That'll also give us 60. So again, we have negative 64 equals negative 16b. Okay, we switched around what the equation looks like, but our attention is always on the side of the variable. We need to divide by the coefficient. In this case, the coefficient is negative 16. So the negatives will cancel, the 16s will cancel. I'm left with b. Over here, the negatives will cancel, and 64 divided by 16. Well, I know that 16 times 4 would give me a 4 in the ones place, because 4 times 6 is 24. So I can try that. 4 times 6. Okay, I would get a 4 here. Okay, 24. So the 2 would go up here. And then 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So that does give me 64. So I'm going to have a positive 4. 64 divided by 16 is a positive 4. Because as we see, the negatives canceled out. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So now we have a decimal multiplication equation. So for this problem, we're just going to take 0.9 y equals 13.5. Again, the rules do not change whether we have decimals, fractions, or whole numbers or integers. We still divide by the coefficient 0.9, and whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other, 0.9. So this kind of brings it back to the very beginning when the problems were easier and I asked you to show the work. This is why we want you to show the work, so that way we know all the steps every time we do these problems. 0.9 divided by 0.9 is 1, and 1y is just y. And for this homework assignment, I'm not expecting you to be able to work out this problem with long division. So it is okay if you grab a calculator and do 13.5 divided by 0.9 to get your answer. And we get an exact answer of 15. Okay, so then we can check that with our calculators, and we can take 0.9 times 15, which is y, and we can say equals, and we do get 13.5, so it does work. For another decimal equation, we have 9.72 equals 1.8a. Again, divide by the coefficient on both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you always have to do to the other. Again, we're thinking about our teeter-totter. It has to be equal and balanced. So we're left with a equals, and again, today's lesson, we're not focusing on dividing decimals. Our focus is on solving multiplication equations. So you can just use your calculator for the division. 9.72 divided by 1.8, and that equals 5.4. We write 5.4 here, and that is our answer. Of course, you're going to want to check that problem. So we'll take 5.4 times 1.8, and that does equal 9.72, so we know that it works. All right, so if we remember what we did in lesson 3-1, we were writing equations, but you didn't have to solve them. So today we're still going to be writing equations, and we know they're going to be multiplication equations, but then we're going to have to solve them at the end. So it says that Serena went to the post office to mail some party invitations. She had $6.15. So that sounds like a total. That's how much she has. So I'm going to write $6.15 here. And the equal sign can go there because this is how much total money we have. If each invitation needed a 41-cent stamp, how many invitations could she mail? The word each tells us that we're doing each or per or every. They are multiplication type words. So I'm going to do 0.41 times the number of stamps. So if I want to rewrite that, I could do 6.15 equals 0.41s. And again, I'm going to divide by the coefficient of my variable s. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I want to figure out how many stamps I can purchase. So again, this is a decimal problem. So we can do 6.15 divided by 0.41, and that equals 15 stamps. So we're going to write down 15 stamps for our answer, remembering to include our units because this is a word problem. Jordan drove 273.6 miles in 4.8 hours. What was Jordan's average speed? So 276 really sounds like a total here, so I'm going to write 273.6 equals my 4.8 hours times my speed. I don't know my speed right now, and that's what I'm trying to find. So we need to divide by the coefficient, which is 4.8. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm left with S, or my speed, equals, because 4.8 divided by 4.8 is 1. And since this is a decimal problem, I can use my calculator. So 273.6 divided by 4.8, and that equals 57 miles per hour. So when I write that here, we're going to have 57, and you can abbreviate it with MPH, or you can write out miles per hour, because we have our units here. This, we know it's miles and we know it's hours, so now we're saying miles per hour. And that's the end of our lesson and all of our examples. If you have any other questions, you can try watching a couple of the personal tutors from Glencoe, which are also posted on the Moodle site.